Welcome to the LSU Sports Insider, brought to you by the journalists at The Advocate, NOLA.com, and the Times-Picayune. Perryn Keys hanging out here with you on an Easter Sunday. I'm in the top left box, Reed Darcey in the top right box. Happy Easter to you two fine gentlemen, Reed Darcey and Scott Rabalais. How you guys doing? How is Albany?
We're doing well. Happy Easter to you and all our viewers here. Didn't think I'd be in Albany, New York for Easter necessarily. Wasn't on the bucket list, but here we are, and it's some great basketball going on.
Oh, the places you'll go. Reed, you'll see this is for as long as your career goes, you'll find yourself sitting on a hotel bed somewhere on Christmas night because there's some football game going on the next day or whatever it is. So it's a fine journey we're all on here. We appreciate everybody tuning in. We are coming to you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Reed.
There's a real lack of crawfish up here. The Easter weekend, we're missing out. So kind of disappointing, but we get to watch the basketball, so it's not a bad trade-off.
That's right. And life is a series of trade-offs. So as Kim Mulkey and the LSU Tigers could probably tell you right about now, we are coming to you, as I said. Happy Easter to everybody, to all those who celebrate. We are coming to you on Sunday afternoon. LSU, of course, has defeated UCLA in a Sweet 16 to move on to a rematch in the Elite Eight with Iowa, a rematch of last year's national championship game, which LSU, of course, won 102-85. And it's going to be quite the show, and it's been quite the show already. Before we get into it, let's get into a little bit of business, of course, as always. Typically, we come to you on the LSU Sports Insider every Monday and Thursday. We decided to get out a little bit in front of this game, of course, and give this show a little bit longer shelf life and give the people what they want, which is a whole lot more discussion about the day that was on Saturday and the day that's to come on Monday night. So we are here, as I said, again, typically every Monday and Thursday, but we're coming to you live here on Sunday. And we are always live. We're always coming to you live when we do on all our social channels, but specifically our YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. If you search YouTube for that, and you can subscribe, and that way you can catch us live each time. And if you don't catch us live, you can catch us after the fact on that same YouTube channel, LSU Tigers at NOLA.com. If you don't catch us there, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever the finer podcasts are found. And of course, these fine gentlemen are hanging out in what looks like a mall, but it's actually an arena. It's actually the MVP Arena in Albany, New York on Easter Sunday, bringing you the best LSU sports coverage, as the Advocate always does. So please support your local journalists, crawfish-less journalists who are up there in Albany, roughing it. Please support them and go to theadvocate.com and subscribe there. You can go to theadvocate.com/subscribe to join us and join all the fun. Don't miss a moment of everything that is coming down the line. And at LSU, there's always something coming down the line. Plenty of sports going on. Obviously, the spotlight is front and center on the LSU women. So, but please don't miss anything else. You can get all the headlines, all the LSU headlines, delivered straight to your inbox with the LSU newsletter. To sign up for that, you go to theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. And as always, we are brought to you today and every day by Champion Wealth Strategies. Champion Wealth Strategies is a national financial services firm specializing in the markets of securities, 401ks, and college and retirement planning. Our broker-dealer is LPL, financial member FINRA, SIPC. As you know, bank investments are not guaranteed by the FDIC and may lose value, but to find out more about Champion Wealth Strategies, please go to championwealthstrategies.com and plan like a champion today. Okay, with all that out of the way, Rab, we have entered into yet another weekend for the ages. I know we keep on saying this, but I mean, my goodness, when is something interesting going to happen on the LSU beat? I'm just amazed that it's so quiet, stress-free, news-free, controversy-free, all that stuff. In all seriousness, Rab, I was just going to ask you if you could walk us through Saturday from start to finish, starting with the long-awaited Washington Post story that published by Kent Babb, and go from there.
Right. So Saturday morning, the long-awaited Washington Post's in-depth story on Kim Mulkey finally hit their website. Delayed we have to every indication it was delayed from when they originally planned to publish it. I think Wilson Alexander told us he heard from a reporter of theirs that it was supposed to go on Tuesday, and then it was delayed until Saturday morning. Clearly, they were looking through it very closely. Finally publishes. We're reading it. Reed's reading it. I'm driving the car on the way to the arena for the game, and didn't see any enormous revelations in it. So heard that Mulkey says she hasn't read it, but we heard she wasn't what she got from it or what she was told about it. She wasn't upset about it. So that seemed to be like a storm that was passing. And then we had the game, which was an intense, tight, for the most part, somewhat chippy affair between LSU and UCLA, which the Tigers won 78-69. Then we get in the post game and hear all this talk about this story in the Los Angeles Times by a writer named Ben Bolch, who is the UCLA beat writer, but wrote a commentary describing LSU as dirty debutantes and UCLA as America's sweethearts, and the game being a battle of good versus evil. This was a story that was published Friday, but a lot of us here in Albany didn't see anything of until Saturday, right around the game or right after the game. So Kim Mulkey came out blasting that. It's kind of like the Washington Post story was set aside, and she came up blasting that and blasting the implications of what the writers said about her players. Get up this morning. Finally, Los Angeles Times has removed the, you could say, offending paragraph that described LSU as dirty debutantes, but the story is still up. And the UCLA coach Corey Close had tweeted a link to the story, and she issued an apology about it late last night. And then it's just here's the game now. LSU's playing the most anticipated game and certainly regional final probably in the NCAA tournament history against Iowa, who they beat last year. So as you said, nothing much going on here. Nothing more to see here.
Reed, before the mics got hot, as we say, Reed said he got a great night's sleep last night because I'm sure you guys got sort of run through the woodshed. Not that we're working offshore coal mining here, but right. It was a long day from start to finish. Reed, I want to get into you've been covering this team from start to finish. You were there last year for the national championship game. I just want to sort of I want to get your 2 cents on let's not lose the forest for the trees. We saw some pretty elite level basketball on Saturday between LSU and UCLA, and it struck me. I tweeted this out after the game. It struck me that LSU's trainers are going to have quite a hefty lift for the next 36 hours between Saturday's game and Monday's game, because this looked like for everything on TV. You guys are obviously there in the arena. It looked for everything on TV like this was a knockdown, drag out heavyweight fight in the best way. I don't mean that in terms of dirty play and foul play and that kind of thing, but it was a thriller from start to finish, and it looked like it probably took a lot out of both teams.
Yeah, it was very physical, and I think you look at 45 fouls combined between both teams. LSU, I believe, had 4 players with at least 3 fouls. UCLA had 6 players with at least 3 fouls. 2 players fouled out. Angel Reese fouled out. Kiki Rice fouled out. So it's a very physical game. It sort of reminded me of the 2 games that LSU played against Auburn earlier in the season. Auburn's a really physical team, and they really took it to LSU, and they tried to beat them up as much as they could in those 2 games. And we talked to Angel Reese and Nisa Morrow and Leah Del Rosario after the game, and they said, they could feel the physicality, and they could feel the effort UCLA was playing with. But it's something that they were used to. It's nothing that they haven't felt before. So they were able to prevail. They were able to come through. And I think the story of this game is how they shot at the free throw line. They once again, the third game in a row in the tournament, they had a large discrepancy from the free throw line over their postseason opponent. And I think that's incredibly telling, because this LSU team is built to get free throws, and they're built to wear teams down in that regard, and they've been able to do that consistently throughout the tournament. And so it might be something else to watch when they play Iowa tomorrow. How often do they get to the free throw line, and how does that help them sustain their offense? Because Iowa's a bit of an undersized team, so maybe they'll have an even extra added emphasis, getting to the free throw line. So yeah, that's their bread and butter, free throws and fast break points, and that's how they can win.
In a big game, in a heavyweight fight such as this one, it sure helps to have your best players play at their best. Angel Reese and Flau'jae Johnson played at their best. Reed, I was just going to ask you just how, I know Flau'jae said that this was not the greatest game she's ever played, but for everything, it sure looked like an extension of what we've seen out of Flau'jae over the past, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 10 games, where she's being that much more assertive and that much better a basketball player, frankly. Just how dominant's the wrong word, but just how clutch was Flau'jae Johnson here and with her basketball skills.
Yeah, she won't say it, but I will. I think that was the best game I've seen her play in an LSU uniform. When you think back, you sort of look at her first game in the SEC tournament against Auburn. She had 23 points or something like that, I believe. So she had another great game there. Yeah, but like you said, this has sort of been building for a while. She's been playing really well, especially in the last month or so of the season. And what really jumped out at me is the play she made defensively, right? She had 2 blocks and a steal. And it was sort of in the last minute after she made that layup underneath a contest from Lauren Betts. After that, she blocked Betts on the other end. She sort of poked her shot from behind and got the steal. So that was crazy.
And how tall is Lauren Betts? Just in case everybody forgets.
Lauren Betts is 6'7". Flau'jae is like 5'9", 5'10". So she really got up there to block that shot. It was super impressive. We had a great angle out on it. She poked it away right from behind. And so that was almost even more impressive than the layup she made. But the layup she made, that was really what sealed the deal for LSU. She got that offensive rebound. She took it out. She glanced at the shot clock, and then she made a quick move to the rim and really a scooping layup underneath Lauren Betts. And that's what we've seen from her all year. She's one of the best finishers in the country. She's really good at contorting herself when she's in midair to finish at awkward angles. It's what she does. It's really the strength of her game, and she's really improved her confidence, attacking off the dribble between her freshman year to her sophomore year.
Scott Rabalais, you've seen you were there to witness the emergence of the LSU women's basketball program, and now the reemergence of the LSU women's basketball program in terms of postseason play and clutch play. I would have to think that you would agree that Flau'jae's performance is right up there with the best of them.
Oh, right up there, certainly. I will still say the best game I've ever seen against a quality opponent LSU play was Sylvia Fowles in the 2007 Elite Eight game against UConn. She totally dominated UConn, and LSU won that game going away. And Sylvia Fowles is going to be in the Hall of Fame one day. So, that's not the fairest comparison. But Flau'jae, I agree with what Reed said. Certainly the best game of her college career, especially considering the circumstances. 24 points, 12 rebounds, a couple of blocks, an assist, a couple of turnovers, but not too bad. Hit their only 2 3-pointers. And we've just really seen her blossom. And she's been playing well lately. She's had 8 straight games in double figures. But 14 points against Rice, 21 points against Middle Tennessee, and now this 24-point effort against obviously the best team that they played in the tournament so far. And what is it? What is it about Flau'jae? We saw her with flashes last year, and I was talking to Bob Starkey, the LSU's lead assistant, after the game last night, and he said she finally gets it. And Flau'jae will say this too: she finally gets it. She finally is really understanding the game and not just relying just on pure talent to make plays. And she's become a student of the game, studying a lot of film, and becoming a much more consistent player. And I tell you, if Angel Reese departs LSU after this season, after a lot of people think she will, I think we might be saying going into next year, this is Flau'jae Johnson's team.
Oh, without a doubt, it'll be Flau'jae in terms of just pure scoring. It'll be Flau'jae and Michaela, but I don't think anybody would, certainly at this point, would contest the notion that it would be Flau'jae in terms of whether she's actually the team captain or not. She's the one who's driving the bus,
and she's often the emotional leader
now.
Right, she's often the emotional leader of this team as well. She plays with a lot of passion, a lot of fire, a lot of spirit, a lot of joy for the game. Kim Mulkey spoke about that this morning at the press conference we had to preview the Iowa game. Just plays with a lot of joy, and you know what's going on with Flau'jae, and it's she's got a lot of reason to be happy with the way she's playing, and obviously the way her team is playing right now for sure.
Reed Darcey, this game again was something of a heavyweight fight, but let's not gloss over the notion that UCLA took a lot of 3-point shots and missed a lot of 3-point shots, and Iowa is just flat out not going to miss that many. UCLA finished 7 for 32. I don't have it in front of me, but I think they were something like 2 for 9 in the first half and 3-point shooting, and probably started off even a little bit worse than that, UCLA. How what was how did that come to be, and what will LSU have to do on Monday night against one of the better outside scoring teams that we've ever seen?
I think they're just missing shots. I don't think it was just anything that LSU did special defensively. They sort of got a bunch of good looks. They got the looks that they wanted, and they just missed. And that's sometimes the way it works. Teams like that, you live and die by the 3 ball. It's not anything revelatory. It's not anything specific that LSU did. I think UCLA just missed their shots. I think they started 2 of 17, I believe, in the first half. Right. Then they started to heat up a little bit in the third quarter, and that's really what keyed them in order to make it a close game in the second half. But then they cooled off again, and Flau'jae took over, and LSU's offense, found a rhythm again. But like I said, live and die by the 3. They fell into that 10-point hole in the first half because they missed a bunch of threes, and then they climbed out of it because they made a bunch of threes, and that was really the story of the game, in my opinion. So, when you look at Iowa, again, like you said, they're one of the best 3-point shooting teams in the country, and that's not just including Caitlin Clark. They've got a lot of other players who can shoot really well as well. And so if I'm LSU, that's something that's concerning because some of their post players can actually step outside beyond the arc and shoot. And that could be tricky for Angel and Anissa because they're so good around the glass. They're so good at grabbing rebounds that if they're having to go out beyond the 3-point arc on defense, then that could limit some of the rebounds they can get, which is bad news for LSU because they really, really try to emphasize grabbing rebounds and they really try to make it a part of their identity. So just watch exactly what Iowa does to space the floor and to bring Angel and Anissa out on the perimeter. I think if they can do that and shoot efficiently from beyond the arc, then they can probably beat LSU. But LSU does have the size advantage inside over Iowa, so they can get probably most of what they want on their offensive end of the floor. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how they match up there.
Right. Go ahead, Reb.
A lot of people think, what is the secret to Kim Mulkey's success? Why do her teams win so much? Why have they won 9 straight games in the NCAA tournament? She focuses on playing defense, focuses on rebounding, and they don't rely on the 2-pointer, and they focus on getting to the free throw line, as Reed talked about in the first game, 24 of 31 yesterday. It's not a huge secret. It's just doing the fundamental things really well. And to my way of thinking, this is a way to win a lot of basketball games. I know Alabama's men rely on a lot of 3-pointers, and they're in the Final Four for the first time. But I think they're going to have a hard time beating UConn. I think winning 6 straight games with that style is difficult. I think winning 6 straight games with Iowa's style is difficult. And so I think because LSU has that size advantage, they benefited from UCLA not just missing a lot of 3-pointers yesterday, but just barely throwing the rim and just shooting air balls. There were a lot of the shots that were just dreadful. But they benefited from that. But in general, maybe LSU's defense had a little to do with that. And their defense is much better than it was earlier in the season. I think if they'll, Colorado, they got wiped out by Iowa yesterday by 21 points. If it was LSU and Colorado in this regional final, I think LSU would have been very happy to see Colorado again in a rematch with a trip to the Final Four on the line. But that's what makes Kim Mulkey's teams consistently winning: defense, rebounding, going to the free throw line. If you can do those things consistently, you're going to win a lot of games. That's what her teams do, and that's why they're in the Elite Eight for the 2nd straight year.
You guys just finished up a press conference this morning, Sunday morning, with LSU and Iowa and Kim Mulkey and the crew. And I found it illuminating that Kim Mulkey made a point to say our game plan is not going to be the same game plan that we followed against Iowa last year. And, a lot of it makes sense. There's no Jasmine Carson, who incidentally finished that game with the game high 22 points. It's sort of easy to forget that. 6 threes in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. Certainly no Alexis Morris to take over the game in the fourth quarter. No LaDasia Williams to come up with a clutch performance, especially if some of your other bigs get into foul trouble. What do you expect? And I'll leave this with you, Reed, to start off. What do you expect to see in terms of what LSU might try to do offensively? You discussed defensively what they got to do, but offensively, how might they attack this particular Iowa team, which is different as well?
Yeah, I think when Mulkey said that, she was more referring to their offensive game plan, not having Alexis, Jasmine, and LaDasia. It's big because those 3 combined for 63 points last year in the title game, and they don't have any of them. They don't have all 3 of them. They're all off to their careers. So it's it'll be interesting. I think the offense might look different, but the defensive game plan is probably going to stay the same. What they really tried to do last year was they sort of let Caitlin Clark get hers. They let her shoot from the three. They really didn't. They didn't try. They wanted to prevent her from driving the lane and penetrating. But they sort of let her shoot threes and said, hey, if she gets 30, she's going to get 30. There's not much we can do about it. I think Angel said today, she gets 30 in wins and she gets 30 in losses. So no matter what LSU does, no matter how LSU defends her, Caitlin Clark's probably going to have a big game if she's that good. That's what she does to teams, and that's what she has done all season in her entire career. So it'll be more about how LSU defends the role players and the other 5 or 6 players around Caitlin Clark. Last year, they really tried to key in on Monica Sonano, their post player who had a great season last year. She wasn't very good in the national title game, and you can thank Daisha Williams for that. I think she really did a great job shutting her down. Now Iowa, they don't have Monica Sonano, but they do have a pretty good complement of role players. And Mulkey was very complimentary of how well they shot the three ball. So LSU's going to have to defend the three-point arc against Iowa, and they're not going to have to. They can't let those role players get open space from there because they can easily make LSU pay for giving them open space.
If you would just expand on that a little bit, Reed, in terms of Iowa's not quite as big as it was last year, and certainly LSU, unlike the UCLA game, LSU should have a size advantage inside.
Yeah, their biggest player is Hannah Stolke. I believe she's like 6'2", 6'3", but she's like a shorter 6'2", 6'3", if that makes any sense. Angel Reese.
Yeah, she can go outside a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. Angel Reese was at the size disadvantage to Lauren Betts, right? But Angel Reese now has the size advantage against Iowa and against Hannah Stolke. So Angel, she's just a lot longer and she's a lot taller. And I think Iowa could really have a lot of trouble with Angel around the rim. I think they'll really have a lot of trouble keeping her off the free throw line, keeping her off the offensive glass, and preventing her from getting open layups. So I think Iowa, they might really struggle to defend Angel Reese. We've been waiting for Angel Reese to have a huge game in the tournament to shoot really efficiently. I think that could come tomorrow night because Iowa just doesn't have the size to match up with her. So I'll be looking out for that as well.
LSU second in the nation behind UCLA, incidentally, in rebounding margin. LSU is plus 12.7. Iowa is, I can't count this quickly, but Iowa is a good ways down the list, somewhere in the top 20, but toward the bottom of the top 20, plus 7.6 rebounding margin. Rab, I bring this up not because we're trying to stir the pot, which we are occasionally accused of doing. It might be guilty of, but no, I bring this up because I think it's legit because we've seen this over and over and over again, that this has potential to be certainly a physical game. We expect that. But do you expect to get chippy?
Well, you'd have to expect that considering everyone remembers the image from the championship game last year of Angel Reese walking past Caitlin Clark and pointing to her ring finger. And let us not forget Caitlin Clark in the Elite Eight game last year against Louisville, waving a hand towards Haley Van Lith like you can't see me when Haley Van Lith was playing for Louisville. So, right. It cuts both ways. And I think a lot of the focus is on what LSU does and what they do. And Caitlin Clark sometimes gets a pass with some of her similarities. But yes, I would expect it to get a little chippy. Like Iowa wants to beat LSU. The LSU took them out last year in the championship game. They know, and Caitlin Clark knows, people are saying she could be considered the best player in the history of women's basketball if she wins a national championship. And this is her last shot. And so LSU's standing in their way. LSU stood in their way last year. And LSU's had to hear all the Caitlin Clark hype for a year as well. And frankly, some of that hype is she's the golden child and LSU's the, for lack of a better term, bad girls of women's basketball. As we've seen people write, as
good villains,
the good villains, as Angel said, yeah, the good villains, and they've certainly embraced that role. But I think they're using it as an edge. Both teams, obviously, Iowa's got an edge. They want revenge from last year's game, and LSU's got an edge that I think they can certainly play the everyone's against us card and take that to heart. So, yeah, I expect it's going to get. I expect it's going to be like that, and if it does, it does. I think people need to get over a little bit of. I'm not a big person for trash talking and stuff like that, but at the same time, people need to get over the fact that women can't be as competitive as men do, and that they can't be accepted to do some of the things that the men do in a heated competition. So, I certainly expect we're going to see some of that tomorrow for sure.
It wouldn't surprise me, first of all, given how we saw last year's game, but also given how it seems to have been for much of this tournament, that we're going to see possibly because of that potential influence that the refs are going to call it a tight game. That can work. That can work both ways for LSU. Obviously, Reed, you mentioned LSU is built to get to the free throw line, and the discrepancies between free throws between LSU and its opponents this postseason has been noticeable, leading to many people, running the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories as well. Nonetheless, LSU is built to get to the free throw line. That certainly can be a benefit to them, but LSU, as we've said over and over and over again this year, 7 players deep, and that's about it. And they were sort of living on the edge against UCLA. They can't really afford to have their players get into too much foul trouble. Can you just sort of discuss that a little bit further?
Yeah, that's something that Angel has really struggled with this tournament. I think foul trouble. There's been a lot of foul calls. Obviously in every game they've played. But the free throw discrepancy, I've seen some people, online say, oh, LSU, of course they get a good whistle. The refs treat them too well. But their opponents, especially Middle Tennessee and UCLA, they took a ton of threes, and when you take a ton of threes, you're not going to shoot a lot of free throws. So that's probably the largest reason behind the discrepancy. That's just the way Kim Mulkey wants them to play. That's the way she built the team, and that's the way Angel Reese really wants to score most of her points. It's at the free throw line. Anissa Morrow is the same way. They're built to funnel all the offense to the rim, funnel it into the post, funnel it into the paint, and get layups, and get free throws, and get offensive rebounds. That's what they're built on, and that's what's going to carry them through the tournament. Kim Mulkey, thinks that that can be consistent game to game to game. Whereas if you're built on 3-point shooting, that can be up and down. You can't really rely on that as consistently as you can layups and free throws and paint points. So that's really what they're trying to do. That's the recipe. That's the plan for them to get back to the Final Four. And so whether they beat Iowa or whether they lose to Iowa, they're going to go down playing the way that they want to play. That's the one thing we know for sure.
Rab, what would you do anything? Would you try to do anything different in terms of making sure that LSU stays out of foul trouble?
I don't know how much they can do. They're going to try to play a physical game and impose a physical game on Iowa. So you're going to have to live with some fouls. And as Reed said, there's not much of a bench. They played 7 players yesterday. They'll probably play 7 players in Monday's game. And you just have to be smart with it. You have to try to. But they're on the edge sometimes. Yeah, Haley Van Lith took a charge that fouled Kiki Rice out of the game yesterday. That could have gone the other way, but Kiki Rice had put out an arm and gave her a shove, and that was the call. So no, I think they're going to play that aggressive style, and try to disrupt the game as much as they can with their defense and getting in the passing lanes and that sort of thing. So no, I would expect a similar approach to LSU had against UCLA.
One other thing before we sort of start to wind this down, this is. Rab, you mentioned this. This may be the most anticipated regional final in the history of the history of the NCAA women's tournament. The championship game last year drew 9.9 million viewers across ESPN platforms. That easily outdistanced some of the biggest college football games of that season. I don't know that they will get to 9.9, but this has the potential to be maybe the most watched women's basketball game this season, at least leading into the championship game. Can they hit the over on 9.9, or is it going to go somewhere near there?
I think it makes it a little tougher that it's on a Monday night instead of a Sunday. If the game was today, maybe, but I spoke to Rebecca Lobo after the game yesterday. She was about to leave the court as I was heading to the press conferences, and she called the semifinals and is calling the game tomorrow. And she thought maybe reaching the last year's championship game number would be a bit of a stretch, but she said maybe 7 million viewers would be within possible. I think I have no idea. I'm not a TV person or in the Nielsen family or anything like that, but I think they have a shot to get a very big number for this game. This is kind of like Imagine if Larry Bird and Magic Johnson had a rematch of the 1979 national championship game the next year. What kind of number would that have drawn for a college game? They went on to play in the NBA, of course, many times, but in the college game, what would that have been like? I think these two teams and these two star players are kind of in that vein. And I think a lot of folks are going to be turning out. There's no competition from the men's tournament on Monday night. The men's Final Four. We set the regional finals in today, and I think it'll be very. I think it'll be a very big number. If it was 9.9 million last year, at least half that. At least 5 million people I think are going to watch. I don't know if 7 million is a accurate prediction, but I think it's going to be a lot.
And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the other game that night, the other game on Monday night. UConn's playing USC, and that's going to be Paige Beckers.
100%.
Juju Watkins, and that's going to be fun as well. So there's a ton of star power on the women's side right now. Lots of star players. They're all playing Monday night. All four of them are really. They're going to go after it Monday night. It's going to be really fun to watch. So if you're an LSU fan or just a basketball fan in general, I would recommend you watch both games, because you'll really see exactly what kind of star power the women's game has to offer. Because those girls can play, all four of them. They're all
absolutely all stars. Yeah.
Juju certainly put on a show in lifting. She didn't do it single-handedly, but she certainly put on a show as a true freshman, leading USC past Baylor. A very, very game effort by Nikki Collins' Baylor basketball team. Rab, I will Reed, of course, you're the beat writer, so I won't stick it to you here, but I will stick it to you, Rab.
Thanks.
No problem. That's what I'm here for. We've got a much ballyhooed heavyweight fight. Another one coming up here down the line. This is something that everybody's been waiting for. In addition to LSU versus South Carolina, these are the two headline teams. There's just no doubt about it. And so, with that in mind, what happens on Monday? And then after what happens on Monday between LSU and Iowa, whom do you expect to see in the Final Four in all four regions?
Okay, I will say, I went into the regional thinking that the UCLA game for LSU was a lot like the Utah game last year in the Sweet 16, and that was LSU's closest game. And we've talked several times on this. We talked several times on this podcast. LSU had a little good fortune to get past Utah in that game. They won by 3. It was their closest game of the entire tournament, including the game in the Final Four with Virginia Tech and the national championship game, which LSU won by 17. I maybe it's because LSU beat Iowa by 17 last year. I feel better about LSU's chances against Iowa than I did against UCLA. And not that I thought they would lose against UCLA. I thought it would be a very close game that would go down to the wire. And, of course, LSU hit that 14-2 run at the end of the game and pulled away, making a lot of free throws and getting some key defensive stops. I just think, we're talking about the two star players. Caitlin Clark is a great player. Angel Reese has a better supporting cast by far. And not that they don't have some good players like Gabby Marshall and some other good players for Iowa. But I just think LSU, especially the way Flau'jae Johnson is playing, has a better supporting cast. I agree with what Reed said earlier. Caitlin's going to score her points. If she gets 30, 35, that's fine. You can't let her get everyone else involved in the offense. She's had 5 NCAA tournament games. Yesterday was her 5th NCAA tournament game. She had over 25 points and over 15 assists, believe it or not. She had 15 assists yesterday. And 3 of the 4 games they lost this year, Iowa, she had single-digit assists. So I think LSU's got to keep her from getting everyone else involved in the offense as much. And LSU's very good at getting in the passing lanes, making steals, disrupting your offense that way. So they've got to do that tomorrow. Not that LSU can't lose, certainly not. Caitlin Clark can take over a game, but I think she's they call her Ponytail Pete, and there's been a lot of allusions to Pete Maravich. I think she's a little like Pete Maravich in this game. She's the great player, but the four supporting players are not quite as good as the players on the other side for LSU. So I like LSU to cut down the nets again at Iowa's expense and get back to the Final Four. Who I think is going to make the Final Four? I think South Carolina. Yeah, I think South Carolina will beat Oregon State here today. We'll find out, obviously, if I'm proven right. I think UConn is going to win, and then this is the other final is. I guess I want to say Texas, but I'm not exactly. Texas had the big.
Not saying it with conviction.
Yeah. Not saying with conviction. No, I'm not. So. But I'll say Texas. I think Vic Schaefer's a really good coach, and obviously they're going to be a lot for everybody to deal with in the SEC starting next year.
Reed, in closing, anything that you say, let's just play this thing out and say LSU and Iowa are going at it in the first quarter. If the game is going a certain way, what will that tell you? Anything you want to, things that the average viewer should be looking for, who maybe is just now starting to peek in on the LSU women, things that you want to, if you're watching this game in the first quarter and things are going well for LSU to start off, what will have happened?
Iowa will have missed their 3-pointers or missed a lion's share of them. I think if Iowa starts out hot from 3-point range, LSU is in big trouble. First thing I would watch for is how LSU chooses to defend screen and roll actions with Caitlin Clark. I think that'll tell you a lot about their strategy and a lot about how they're really trying to approach the game and how they're trying to keep Caitlin Clark's teammates from beating them. So yeah, watch how LSU defends Caitlin Clark's screen and rolls. Watch how active Anissa Morrow is. I like Rab's point about how LSU is good about getting steals, getting in the passing lanes, getting deflections. Anissa Morrow is probably the best LSU player in that regard. She can really hang with larger post players down low in the paint, and she can get out on the perimeter and disrupt things, guards, get steals. We'll do stuff like that. So Anissa Morrow is a player who can switch out on the Caitlin Clark if they want to, or they can keep Flau'jae Johnson or Haley Van Lith or Lasker Poa on Caitlin Clark. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of game plan they have. It all starts with those screen and rolls, with Caitlin Clark up top. Watch those, watch how LSU defends them, and that'll tell you a lot about how they want to defend Iowa.
LSU and Iowa, 6:15 p.m. Monday on ESPN. The rematch is here. It should be a blockbuster, depending on where you shop. Iowa is a 1.5-point favorite. The total is 169. And if you're not any good at math, that means that you're talking about two teams that the suggested final score would be somewhere in the 80s for both of those teams. And that's not surprising, given the fact that Iowa is the leading scoring team in the nation, 91.9 points per game. LSU is the third leading scoring team in the nation at 85.9 points per game. It ought to be a real show. Gentlemen, we appreciate you coming in on a Sunday, going crawfish-less on a Sunday in Albany, New York, doing a bang-up job as usual on what's been a very, very eventful weekend. Just a little bit of business to close out. Of course, we're typically here on Mondays and Thursdays. We wanted to get out in front of this game, obviously, a little bit, and talk about it and let all our viewers and readers get as much of it as they can before tip-off. So generally speaking, though, we're here on Mondays and Thursdays on the LSU Sports Insider. We of course, we would love for you to join us on all our social channels, specifically the YouTube channel, LSU Tigers on NOLA.com. You can catch us there live. If you don't catch us live after the fact, just go to YouTube and search for LSU Tigers on NOLA.com and follow along there. Please subscribe to The Advocate if you have not already. Go to theadvocate.com/subscribe to do that and stay up to date with everything, not just LSU women's basketball, but everything with spring football, softball, baseball, such as it is, gymnastics, and everything else. Stay up to date and get our newsletter delivered straight to your inbox. Sign up at theadvocate.com/LSU newsletter. If you don't catch us on YouTube, you can catch us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever other finer podcasts are found. And wherever you catch us, you are going to catch us because we have been brought to you by Champion Wealth Strategies. Champion Wealth Strategies is a national financial services firm specializing in the capital markets, securities, insurance, 401ks, and college and retirement planning. Broker-dealer is LPL Financial Member FINRA, SIPC. As you know, investments are not FDIC insured, may lose value, and have no bank guarantee. Contact Champion Wealth Strategies at championwealthstrategies.com and plan like a champion today. Gentlemen, please enjoy your Easter, such as it is, and have a cold one wherever you are in a cold part of the country in Albany, New York right now. It's going to be quite a show. We appreciate all the hard work you guys have done on what was a long Saturday with everything that happened on Saturday. And there's sure to be more fireworks to come, because why wouldn't there be? Because it's the LSU beat. So, gentlemen, we appreciate it. Please get a good night's sleep, and we will see you on the other side Reed Darcey, we appreciate it. Scott Rabalais, we appreciate it. To all of you listeners and viewers out there, happy Easter for those who celebrate. I'm Perryn Keys. This has been the LSU Sports Insider.